That's good.
Oh, no, look at my eyes. You
Yeah,
it looks
that's
strange. Mr. Lander, tell me, why is it that, what argument are you putting forward as to why you ought to be the member for Pete's?
Well, I think as an minister in a government for 8 years, I've got the experience and the capacity to achieve things for Pete's that have never been considered before. I think access to budgetary decisions and access to funds are going to make big improvements on the basic issues such as roads, sewerage, rates, and the important day-to-day issues that concern people.
You happy with that? Go my optic.
Stand up a bit.
Okay, I'll identify this one, mate, because they could get a bit confusing. This is Jim Lloyd. Jim Lloyd. Mr. Lloyd, tell me, why should you be the member for Pete's?
Right, well, firstly, I live in the area. I'm a resident of the electorate of Pete's, and I think that is vitally important. I've had a small business, a milk run in this area for the past 11 years. I'm fully conscious of all the problems of this area, the bad roads, the lack of sewerage, etc. And I'm just fully aware of what is going on in this electorate. I think that's vitally important.
What do you think you can do about it?
Well, I hope to be a very active member of the next Liberal National Party government, because I believe that they will go in government on the 24th, and I think that it is important that we have a member of Pete's who is in the government, and that way I can put forward my views very strongly, and that hopefully we will gain a lot more services for the Pete's electorate.
We're rolling.
Looking after the people of Pete's in this electorate since before the 1981 elections. I re-nominated immediately after the last one so that I could continue to do so. I've been doing my level best to look after them through the media, like such as yourself, trying to get through to the people and protect them from the sorts of things that are happening around them. There are rip-offs going on around this area which are costing the ratepayers enormous amounts of money, and which I feel very restricted in my ability to do anything about. I can achieve that so much better from within Parliament that I sincerely hope that they will do again what they did last time, which was treble the vote. They gave me 10.5% in 1981. If I could achieve anywhere between 26 to 30% this time round, I would have a very, very good chance of unseating Paul Lander, and I hope that will happen.
I didn't mind that. Right. We're going to get it done. Tell me, what is the whole story of your standing?
The whole story of my standing is that for 4 years I studied at university at New England, and then I had the opportunity of studying 2 years overseas at Colorado State University. From those two universities, I gained a professional understanding of what government and how government operates. When I came back to Australia, I was very disillusioned with what I saw, and that is everything is going for New South Wales, except something was wrong. I felt that I could do something from the skills that I had to contribute to the development of New South Wales, and particularly to Gosford. And that is, in Gosford, I saw local politicians just playing cheap politics. They weren't concerned about what was happening to their local area. They were just concerned about a personality fight. So rather than the personality fight, forget that. There are basic issues which are essential to Gosford City, and that is it shouldn't be treated as a dormitory area of Sydney. It's got its own unique identity. That is, you have a Central Coast region. Not only that, employment by all means is top priority, but besides employment, we have a strong case, and that is, from memory right now, there's about 15% local unemployment in Gosford, and there's about 26% unemployment in Wyong. The electorate of Gosford actually goes into both those areas, and the ones that are suffering are those people right outside now that haven't got a job and haven't got prospects of jobs. And so therefore the first criteria is to put jobs within the Central Coast. But not only put jobs, you've got to realise that this area is environmentally sensitive, and that is that the balance of the lake systems at Tuggerah Lakes, the balance of Brisbane water. If we don't manage those systems correctly, we're in a lot of trouble, and that's what I'm on about.
Right. Okay. Thanks again.
Jobs, high-rise experience.
Okay.
We're rolling.
Mr. McGowan, what are your aims, policies and objectives? In other words, why should you continue to be the member for Gosford?
I'm seeking to provide more work for both men and women on the Central Coast. I'm opposed to the high-rise development which is being promoted by the National Party, and basically what it comes down to is that I'm a person who has 8 years experience in this particular job, and I'm prepared to put that experience to work for my electorate.
That was very nice. I'm right. What is your policy as we approach the coming election?
Well, it's divided into two categories. I think the initial category is a complete support to the policies as outlined by both the Liberal and the Country Party leader, our national leader now, Leon Punch in New South Wales. Can we start that again? Right.
Lose that smile, that's anything. It's a bit of a
Right.
smirk. Okay, where you go?
Right, the policies that I appreciate are primarily related to the two leaders, Punch and Greiner. And in addition to that, the local issues that I'm particularly concerned about are the escalating costs of supporting the sewage loan rate, which is now at a prolifically high figure. I have the support of both the leaders to say that we can put $6 million directly into the sewage scheme locally, which will reduce the rate. We lose probably 2 or 3 times the national average of people to road deaths in this area, because of the Freeway Association and because of bad roads. Both the leaders have also given me full support in probably $2 million worth of immediate minor road funding and very significant funds for the highways that pass through the area. The other major factor that I'm interested in is giving the local people the right to choose their own school for children, which I think is very important in this area.
Brilliant, brilliant. Mr. Harcher, tell me, what are your policies, your aims, your objectives? What can you do for Gosford that you think is not being done?
Our aims are the same as those of Nick Greiner. We want to clean up New South Wales, we want to make this a better state, and our program is for a greater Gosford. And what we intend to do is to improve the roads. They're terrible in this area, as you probably saw when you came down. We want to fight crime, get the police back on the beat. We want to help our aged people. They're fighting now against any proposed assets tests by the RAN or the Hawke governments. We want to help them by taking the FID off their pension checks. We aim basically look throughout all sectors of the community and give them a fair go. But above all, we want to end the corruption and the miasma of crime that pervades this state just as much as it pervades the United States and some other areas. Our aim is to clean up New South Wales. Did you? was that too long? Okay.
All right, just tell me a little bit about yourself. Okay? No one can hear at this stage. We'd just like to get an identifying shot of you.
Right, I'm Clem Payne, 44 years of age, married with 2 children.
Yeah.
I live in Baddow Bay, and I'm standing as the independent candidate for Tuggerah.
What is it you think you can do for Tuggerah?
What I offer the people of Tuggerah.
It's got a soft voice, hasn't it? Mr. Payne, what will you do if you're elected? What will you do for Tuggerah?
For Tuggerah, I offer a more vigorous representation as the member for Tuggerah, and based on the quality of living standards for the people of Tuggerah, an improvement there. I will fight for free ambulance for all people of New South Wales, rate pegging reductions for water and sewerage rates, and a reduction in rates for the unemployed. I offer a greater provision of safety in Wyong, including the full upgrading of Wyong Hospital to a general hospital, including a maternity section. The more and better pedestrian crossing facilities in Wyong, especially for school children and the elderly. The provision of at least one more fire station, urban fire station in Wyong, and manning of 2 on a more permanent basis.
Great, that's good. Mr. Sawyer, tell me, why is it that you think you ought to be the member? What are your policies, your aims and your objectives?
Right, I came to the Central Coast 14 years ago as a single man, and I married there. Now, with 4 children, one comes to realise that there's not a great deal for them to do after they finish school, as my children are reasonably young, and I take it that if I can do something for these kids, just not only my own children, but their mates and their school friends and what have you, that if we seriously consider what has been happening to our area, and there's no point in us sitting on the sidelines and whinging about it. I believe that I'm the fellow that should be up front and trying to make the necessary changes that our community particularly needs. If we look at the position that has existed for quite a number of years, we've been considered a blue ribbon Labor seat in our area,
and that price that we pay is that we've got them in our pocket. There's no great problems with education, hospitals in our area. It's to be noted that the government of today has decided to turn around and give us $4 million for Wyong Hospital, and only 7 months ago they were wanting to close it. These are problems that exist. We are a growth area. They refuse to take that as a standard type of exercise. That the problems are that people have just been plonked in our area and told live, and that's not the exercise. If they can't organise themselves today, as far as if we look at our schools, they've all got demountables around them. What have they got to offer our children at the end of their school yearing? It's a problem. So I maintain that I'm up front and I'm in there digging for them.
Okay, great. Mr Nunn, tell me, what are your aims, your policies, your objectives? Why should you be the member for Tuggerah, in your own words, briefly?
Ray, the electorate of Tuggerah has been considered politically safe for too long. It's time that the funds that have been going into marginal seats were given to Tuggerah for its special growth. We have a growth of 33% in our electorate since the last election, and we are getting no consideration from this government. It's time that we got some consideration, and the only way to do that is to get in there and take it over politically.
Are you happy with that? Is that?
Envelopes, Frank.
Oh, good. Thanks very much, Ray. Thank you.
More
work?
pamphlets that I picked up at
Oh, right. Fair enough.
the printer's bank. And it's essential that one of these outer votes to fit inside that personal envelope of that personal letter of mine.
Yeah.
And keep going with them marvellous stuff.
Am I? I'll get extra money for it?
Mr Moore, quickly, why should you continue to be the member?
Well, I believe that I should be continue to be the member to carry out the objectives that I set in motion 2.5 years ago. The upgrading of the hospital facilities of Wyong, the road works and the associated objects, the 2 rail crossings at Tuggerah and Warnervale, the associated work that has commenced on some of the large drainage problems, beach restorations in the area. Yeah, you got me buggered now because I've got to think of it all as I go.
And tell me, why are you standing in this coming election?
Well, we're standing in these elections because we oppose the slump policies of this Labor government. And the Young Socialists and the Socialist Labour League are the only candidates standing in this election dealing with the real issues, which are massive job destruction and unemployment. Because in New South Wales now, there's over 271,000 unemployed. That's over 250,000, and 31% of those are youth. And these are depression levels of unemployment. And we think this whole election is a farce because neither party, the Labor or the Liberals, have any policies to resolve this slump. And, you know, there's plenty of talk about recovery in the media and so on, but this really means nothing to thousands of unemployed youth and workers in these working class areas like Windale, Gateshead and Belmont. The only people that recovery has meant anything to has been the owners of BHP, the bankers and the monopolies, who are now making profits out of sacking tens and thousands of workers. So we, unlike any other party in this election, are standing on a program of basic socialist policies. We call for nationalisation of BHP, the banks and major industries, under workers' control without compensation, because we think it's only socialist policies now that can resolve this slump. Youth have no future. There's no jobs. You know, thousands and thousands of youth are now being turned away from technical colleges, from universities and so on. And, you know, we demand jobs for youth as one of our
We're
policies.
probably out of time already, Anne, but that's
Yeah, sorry.
really
Hello.
Yeah.
Where you go?
Okay, let's have a look at this over here. Oh, no, hang on.
Okay.
When you
From this, but I very much appreciate you being ready to appear.
okay.
I hope you enjoy
Yeah,
seeing
no
yourselves on TV.
Yeah, it'll be
A real thrill.
rather interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's great.
That's hard. Even if you just
How do you
flatten
go
the
in
lips.
public appearances?
No, well, I think that it's good that they should be
He's going to here tonight.
I'm not quite sure about that, but it'll be this week sometime. And instead of just having our face on the camera and raving on, we're getting up to the picture and trying to make it slightly more.
Oh well, now we know how much was true and how much isn't.
Well, the chap over there seems quite surprised at the welfare of Lake Macquarie.
Right. Look at me, mate. Mr. Bowman, tell me, what are your policies, your aims and your objectives? What, as we approach the campaign, what do you see, in your own words, as the most important reason for you remaining the member?
I think that I've demonstrated that the environmental protection of Swansea electorate is uppermost in my mind, and that I've been able to persuade the government to give it the priority that it deserves. There's been an environmental audit of Lake Macquarie, and there will be follow-up of that. I'm also concerned about Lake Munmora to the south, and indeed the whole of the Tuggerah Lake system. I believe also that the upgrading of the Pacific Highway from virtually the top of the electorate to the bottom, in collaboration with the Commonwealth Government, indicates that I can get things done, and I have been very, very active right throughout the whole of the electorate, which embraces part of Wyong Shire and a substantial part of Lake Macquarie municipality. I believe now that I've more experience than I did 2.5 years ago, and that I've shown my real interest in assisting people in all of the difficulties that they face in these hard economic times. Is that okay?
Candidates in this election on the policies of jobs. Is the fact that there's 271,000 people out of work in New South Wales, and 31% of those are youth. And neither government's got any policies to resolve this. Socialist Labor League in these coming elections, but the only party in the election that's putting forward a fight for jobs, for nationalisation of industry. You know, we're saying that this whole election is a farce, because neither not interested there. Oh yeah. What do you do yourself? Do you work there? Labor government putting forward any alternative to that? And which
Let me run it.
Sort of so they can run more. Right. And when it comes to actually edit it, you know, you want to do 2 or 3 edits for each introduction. Just get too many. And look at me. Don't look at the camera. Look at me.
Okay, I'm rolling.
Mr. Kane, tell me, what are your policies, your aims and your objectives? Why should you be the member for Swansea?
Well, I look at it from this point of view that for so long the people in Swansea have missed out because of having a very strong Labor stronghold in the area. The Labor Party have always dominated things and they haven't been spending the money in the area. There's so many needs. There's been for so many years, been about 20 years, been waiting for a decent highway through Swansea. The hospitals are running down. The police, there's only one 24-hour police station in the whole area for 38,000 voters. That's just totally unacceptable as far as I'm concerned. The whole road system in the area needs to be completely uplifted, and there's so many other things which the people just need to have something done. As far as I can see, that the people have been paying taxes to subsidise everybody else's activities throughout the country, but not within their own electorate.
Are you happy with that?
Righto, here we go. Tell me when he's level.
Level with you?
Yeah.
Now. Now he's going to...
We pay for it. I believe the Australian people should be protected by law, that they really own their land and not being pestered by the local council to force them to pay rates when they already paid for their land, and be forced to pay water land rates when they already paid for their land. Why should they pay? I believe that they should pay for water cost. And electricity also has cost, no electricity charges.
Okay, mate, just hold it there. In the seat of Newcastle?
For two basic reasons. Firstly, like most people, I am fed up with the way in which the state government and the opposition are continually fighting each other rather than solving the problems facing the people of Newcastle and the Port Stephens area. Secondly, I personally believe that we are neglected simply because of the fact that Newcastle is a safe Labor seat Now, proof of neglect can be seen in our sewage systems, the lack of a hospital in the Port Stephens area, and our roads are nothing better than go tracks.
Are you happy with that?
I am, if you are. That's the main thing that sets your face up from. Mr. Wade, tell me, why do you think that you ought to continue to be the member for Newcastle? That's in a nutshell what really we need to know.
Well, one thing, I'm proud to be a member of the Rand Labor government, and since 1976, since we've been in government, this government has transformed the whole of this state, not only the state but in particular the Hunter Valley and partly also Newcastle and the environs of Newcastle. Everywhere you look, there's work going on. There's the bridges and the road works, the electrification of the trains, the modifications of transport. Stockton ferries are being reorganised since June the 3rd last year, when they were taken off by the private company, and we now have a guarantee from the Premier that those 2 new ferries will be built for that service. We've got schools going up everywhere, Newcastle East, 2 new ones being constructed now at Medowie and Charles Bay, and 1 completed at Tanilba Bay. There's work going on in every field of operation. A floating dock was brought here when they thought that that was the finish of the shipbuilding industry. We're now going to revitalise the shipyard and hope that we can get the submarine contract. And everywhere you look, there is work going on that this government is proud to have been associated with and proud to have achieved. And I'm quite happy to be a member of that government that has achieved these things. That's your 30 seconds.
Excellent. Yes, yes. Just question is, what are your thoughts?
Ray, I would like to see Newcastle recognised as the second city of New South Wales. I'd like to see us develop better health facilities, a better managed port, a better environment for business to develop in, particularly small business, and better employment opportunities for women. And I will be striving for those policies in a Nick Greiner-led Liberal National Party government. And I would like to be able to be a positive voice in that government.
Right. Yeah. Such a right, such a right. The election, why should you continue to be, in your words, the member for Lake Macquarie?
It's hardly necessary, Ray, for me to explain this to my constituents. I think that they all realise for the period that I've represented them that I've had all their interests at heart. My aims, of course, is to continue the work that I have been doing to improve our road system, certainly to gain sewerage for the western side of the lake, and certainly continue the capital works in our schools, what we've been seeing happening in the last 12 months or more.
Right, great. Thank you.
Everybody pick up the papers? Sure you're looking at the TV?
No, up there.
Looking at... Don't look at the camera. Yeah, don't take it out there. Just go on. Aren't you going to tell me something? Hey? Tell me something. What's your name, mate? You would have plenty to say. There's the boy captain.
I don't know where he is.
Oh, that's good. It's all going to make out you do it, no matter what you say. It's not going to come on TV, so
Things like that.
Go on, while it's on you.
Several rhubarb. Come on. Say happy birthday to you, Mr. Hunt.
Different when
And it's Miss Wilson, I suppose. Is that right or not?
Oh, yeah, just Lynn.
All right.
I prefer.
Lynn Wilson, tell me what are your policies, aims, and objectives as we approach the election? Why do you think you ought to be the member?
Well, Ray, the reason that I think I should be the member is because I feel that I will be a voice for the people. The Australian Democrats is a citizens' party. This has been a safe seat for many years and reflects that in the neglect that's been shown. I will be a voice and speak up about the lack of public transport in the area, about the cutback in public health care, particularly community health care, education facilities, also the appalling road system here. But I feel one of the major things in this area is the lack of public transport, because young people cannot get adequate transport to work, they cannot get adequate transport to further their education at Newcastle Technical College. I will be representing the people of the electorate, not following just a party line. I'll be a voice for the people. Enough.
Okay, Ray.
Go back a bit more, pass in view. How are you?
Righto, Ray.
Just stay there and keep reading. Close the lid and open something. Now walk to your front door.
You come, okay.
Oh, they're good standards, just what I wanted. Yes, yes. Right. Now, how are we going to get people to hand these out?
Oh, well, I think helpers.
Yes, well, this area over here is part of our electorate. I think that.
Yes,
well, this is good, good material. I think that this will get a lot of votes for us in this election. Yes, well, yes. Number one, Gary Carter. Yes, this is what we want. Yes, we'll have a few booths over there.
Okay.
Yes, well. Well, yes, Nick Griner looks pretty good on this one.
He does
yes,
too.
it's excellent photographic material. Yes,
I think important to getting that legislative.
It's very important. We'll distribute these right over there in this part of the electorate over there. Yes, yes. Ray's looking very interested too. Yes, I can see that. Yes, I'm sure we get a landslide victory here.
Good on
yes,
you,
most
mate.
definitely. Yeah. Yes, I see you've got somebody coming to visit you.
Yeah.
What's going to happen here?
Just be talking so that there's a bit of movement in.
Yeah, well,
we gain numbers.
Oh, of course, yeah. Well,
that's worth something to us. Good.
Yes.
Our leaders, Griner, is well featured, and the council well indicated there. That's the way we want to make it.
Well, we're number one, and I think that's where.
Get you going, yeah. Mr Booth, tell me, just what are your policies, your aims and your objectives with the election coming up? I suppose another way to put it would be, why should you continue to be the member for Wallsend?
Well, Ray, I think I should have the opportunity to continue the progressive work I've been doing for the Hunter Valley, for Newcastle, and particularly for Wallsend. And the highlight, I think, of recent months has been the announcement of the $80 million teaching hospital at Rankin Park and the renovations to Wallsend Hospital. These are some of the projects that are now coming to fruition that I've worked very hard for. I believe that I can confidently ask the electorate to re-endorse me and support me on the 24th of March.
I'm happy with that. Yeah.
The most important function I can perform as member is to be in touch with the needs and problems of people in the electorate, to be available when needed, and to properly represent and serve the community. Now that seems fairly general, but there are some specifics. Being involved in job creation programs and efforts to stimulate the economy, pushing for the completion of Motorway 23 to Maitland Road, fighting bed cuts in hospitals, and looking at ways that we can make the roads near schools a lot safer for our children. There you go.
Well, that was basically what...
I was pre-selected last September, and starting last October I've been working in the electorate, starting to door knock, press releases, and get round to hear some of the views of the people about various matters. And therefore, whilst more time would have been appreciated to actually knock on every door in the electorate, I wasn't exactly taken by surprise, and the campaign was well in swing when the election was called.
How do you feel about that particular electorate, Waratah? I mean, we have something rather unusual happening this time, don't we, with Sam Jones standing as independent?
Well, I can understand him standing. He's been standing. Now, it makes it very interesting, and I'm looking forward to it. We'll know exactly how interesting on the 25th of March or shortly there. 24 in May.
Yeah, well, that's young for politics.
It is indeed, but I've been interested since I was 10. At the age of 10, I used to read the Hansards, and I've been interested ever since.
Reading Hansards at the age of 10, I mean, that was an education for a start, wasn't it?
It was. The interjections were the most interesting part at times.
Well, at 24 years of age, what do you think you could do for the area? Is it a different approach that you have that, say, somebody who's been in politics for a number of years would have?
Rather than different, I'd say new. Now, I'm a young fellow with plenty of energy, and one of the most important things, as I see it, is to actually get around the electorate and find out the problem is schooling and education. And one of the things I've received a lot of comments about recently are the various ways that we can look at to make roads near schools a lot safer, because a lot of parents are concerned with the busier roads, with safety on the...
And do you feel that it is very difficult, extremely difficult for somebody in the Liberal Party to achieve results in an election in this area, because it is a Labor stronghold? You've got to admit that yourself.
I certainly do admit that, but we're out to make it